It's a very low barrier to get into the Gronk Squad.
That's crazy.
We've committed to do the Daily Talk Show for 10 years.
Hi, guys.
Hi, guys.
Put it in the calendar.
That one in.
Just like to check the temperature in the room.
I told you my squeegee story.
It is outrageous.
Come on, let's go. It's the Daily Talk Show, episode 972.
What is happening? What is going on?
If you're watching on YouTube, please hit that like button. And if you're on a podcast app, thank you, you little nerd. I love podcasts too. Aren't they great?
I love it.
Mm-hmm.
I love it.
Are you listening to any podcasts?
No. No, I am. Theo Von, comedian.
Mm-hmm. What does he talk about?
I mean, he goes, it's just the most random shit to then some really sort of deep.
Does he really do deep? I can't imagine him being a deep guy.
Yeah, well, he has people, very smart people on his podcast. But then it's like us. It's a mixed bag.
Yes.
Like sometimes you get just like a freckle in your lolly bag.
Yeah.
Other times you get a sherbet. You know, you never know what you're going to pull out.
And so today we thought we would, it's like, what could we do that would be a bit of fun?
Yeah.
Thank you for all the emails. Hi at thedailytalkshow.com. Got a lovely email from Paulina.
Yeah,
thanks. Thank you for sending that through. Today we are doing, we're going through the 20 questions for humans by our mate Craig Harper.
Yeah, great book. Little, it's almost like a little hand guide to life. You wrote this a few years ago, and it's great. On the back, you've got all the questions, and so we're going to go one for one. And Craig has answered them in the book, and so if you want a real clear, succinct, quality answer, you got to buy the book.
Yep.
If you want, a Gronk answer. A mixed bag, you're going to get it from us.
Well, what he says is, when we ask high quality questions, we're more likely to make better decisions, embrace healthier behaviors, think more logically, produce better outcomes, and change our life for the better. This book was written for that reason.
Literally yesterday, I quoted Craig Harper. I said, we know what to do, but we don't do what we know. I mean, he didn't come up with that. He says a lot. Yeah. It's great. It's logic.
And the idea of this book too is there's a whole your note section. So like you're meant to be writing in as you go about what you take away from it.
There is one thing about a nice book with a note section. I panic.
You don't want to write in it.
I'm almost, because I don't trust myself that I'm going to, it's like you're going to be messy. It's great, but then I'm like, there's only a limited amount. What if I blow it and I want to write, I'm overthinking it. Who wants to start with?
I can ask you a question. Yeah.
We got to go from the top though.
Yes.
Great.
That's what I was going to do.
No,
it did sound like I was just going to do a random one.
Yeah, if you asked me a random one, it would be over. We'd miss about
Question
5.
1.
And there has to be, we only have a small amount of time to answer. And if you don't, just don't talk. Like, don't just go for it. You know? Okay.
What's my life telling me?
What is my life telling me? What is Tommy Jackett's life telling me? Upon the we know what to do, we don't do what we know. A great example of that is sticking to that exercise, that head health. It's a new way of saying it. That head health habit.
Yeah.
So the difference in getting up in the morning, going to the gym and meditating.
Did you go today?
Not. I didn't. I didn't. I slept in, went yesterday, going tonight. But I even say that. But I know I should do it regardless in the morning, because what it does is it sets me up. So my life is telling me that I need to stick and have that routine rock solid. Haven't missed a day of meditation in years.
That's good.
But even when I leave it to the last minute of the day, I still can find it like I just make it.
Yep.
And so the difference in getting it done in the morning, my life is telling me that I should get it done early so that you're not trying to catch up by the end of the day and having that vibe, even that energy towards doing something, just making it. I don't like that energy. I like having made it, because that means I've succeeded in showing up and sticking to something.
Okay, question for me.
Number 2, what are my core values and how do I live in alignment? So core values and how do you live in alignment?
Core value, not following the status quo, I think is a core value. How am I living in alignment? I think that I'm constantly questioning what I'm doing, and I'm skeptical of common advice.
Okay. Just to elaborate on that,
Mm-hmm.
what is a core value that is more personal to I feel like that's one to following the status quo is like looking at how other people view what you're doing. But what's something to Josh Jansen, like a personal one? Like it could be like trust, or it could be like a core value.
So you don't think that that's a core value?
No, I think it is.
Mm-hmm.
But I want like a personal sort of like a, the people you surround yourself with. Like what's a core value from? I guess you could look at like that could be work related, right? Not following status quo, or like career or business. What is a personal one?
Yeah, sure. Let's have a think.
It's a hard question. This is the thing about this book. It's a simple question, but it's hard because...
Well, I always say I'm a generous guy.
Yeah, that's a great...
But I've gotten a lot of pushback about being generous for driving, which the thing is, this is why I'm wary of saying the values, because they're personal. So it's your version of what generosity looks like.
Exactly.
But a core... Like, I think it really... Like, a core value... is around creativity. So thinking creatively. I think that's the main one. If I think about like virtues, or think about like, I don't know. I think
I think you nailed it with your first answer. I think creativity.
Well, you asked me a second time, so it must have been good. No, I think like it's a creativity. It's internal. Ask questions. I know that these don't seem like value. Curiosity is a value, I guess.
Yeah.
And so curiosity is a big one for me. So it's curious about beyond what the norm is. Curiosity around people are complex. Ask questions. I think curiosity is a big one.
I think both spot on for you.
Why do I self-sabotage?
Because things are painful. Because I might be experiencing some mental pain, and so you sabotage because that's easier, but it's harder on the other side. So if you're feeling shit and you drink, you're hungover the next day. You're actually in a worse state than a worse state to deal with any of the struggles in the post-sabotaged state. And so why do I do it? I think the sabotage is the easy go-to for a lot of us. It feels like it's the easy option. Or the most obvious thing, but it's this. I mean, it can be a cycle for some people. Sabotaging is like that's always what I've done when stuff is going bad, or it's sometimes it feels good to sabotage. That's the fucking problem with it.
Has sabotaging ever served you?
I think if you've sabotaged enough, it can bring you to the crucible moment. It can be like, I've done too much of this. I've caught myself in the mirror.
I guess there's a difference between self-sabotage and sabotage as well. Like, so you.
Well, I'm referring everything to myself, like sabotaging. So it's like you want to be healthy, and then your next minute you're eating a bag of almonds.
So is a sabotage
last night?
What's the definition of sabotage?
Not sure,
because I think the thing is that like, is sabotage the result of the thing, or is sabotage the thing?
Well, sabotage would be that so in reference to wanting to live, wanting to eat well, this is just an easy go-to.
Yeah.
I want to eat well and I want to change my body. So that's the outcome I want. And then you actively do something that is counter to what you're wanting to do.
So it's an out of alignment thing, but I think what'd be interesting is there, so self-sabotage, I guess, anything that is out of alignment with what you're trying to do would be self-sabotage. But I wonder if there is a sabotage that actually works for you. So if you think about the creative process is about breaking things and rebuilding and doing all of that. Is there a version of sabotage that actually serves? I guess self-sabotage, no, based on self being your goals, where you're aligned to. Sabotaging that, not great.
Well, if you're in a project with a bunch of people and one person sabotages the outcome, then that's like a self-sabotage based on it not being a collective conclusion that we want to sabotage this, So it is always coming back to individual.
So someone like sabotaging a relationship that they're in because unconsciously they don't want to be in the relationship.
Yeah, and so that's self-sabotage. And so
But so that sabotage though is like a version of serving them because they're like, they don't have the willingness or the consciousness
or the guts.
To do it in a way that's very direct.
Yeah, I know.
And so you end up doing it. You end up getting to the outcome that you want purely by sabotaging the position that you're currently in.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean? Yeah, 100%.
So but I guess so for instance, self-sabotage on the food thing, being out of alignment with that, maybe you don't want to do the thing, maybe you don't want to exercise. So if you don't want to exercise and you're sabotaging the, your alarm or whatever, or you miss the thing or whatever, like you're getting what you want. I don't know. The sabotage is an interesting word.
It is an interesting word. Okay, next one. What's the best question I can ask?
The best question I can ask is, what's the worst that could happen?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think especially at the moment where things feel doomsday or whatever it is, it can be an easy way to get perspective.
Yeah, I like that. I like that.
Okay. Number 5, how does the other person see this?
Great question. Almost links back to what we talked about yesterday. Yeah, Margot. Multiple truths, multiple realities, different. I mean, there's.
And so, how do you answer that?
How does the other person see this? I think it's a question to ask in anything you're doing, where you are having your actions or your.
So we're contextualizing the question, but do you have an example that you could use?
So how did Margot see it? The conversation where we had about Mr. 97 and the changes to our business. People could how does the other person see this? They don't see it the way we do.
Yeah. And so how do they see it? So I guess it's a way of getting empathy.
So I don't think it's actually needing to embody and then shift your way of seeing something into the other person's way of seeing something, but just like the perspective of realizing that the way you view something isn't necessarily the end.
No, so but what is it? Like, can you try and enter into it? How does the other person see this? So if you take away ill intent from say a negative comment, what are they trying to do? What are they trying to articulate?
Yeah, so you could look at, they are trying to communicate that I have done a bad job at communicating. You could look at it and go, did I misspeak in the way I articulated that? Did we, when we think about if we say, okay, that conversation about Mr. 97, we did our best job at articulating the truth. Or the outline what happened.
So how does the other person see this?
How does the other person see this? Isn't there enough to take out of it that there is a different way that they are observing it from? So then what I'm connecting to as my truth is not theirs?
I think that there's a version of actually entering into it. Like going into their shoes and saying, okay, like they've said this thing. What are they seeing? So they've seen something different to you.
It's hard because we're not, it's probably not the best example. There's probably a clearer one.
Mm-hmm.
How does the other person see this? So if I did something, if I actively did something, I'm just trying to work out, how does the other person see this?
Well, so someone's saying like, you've lost me here. Like, referring to...
Oh, let's have an example. Once I got into the car and I had a 7-Eleven coffee in my hand and you fucking got pissed because I didn't get you one.
Yeah.
And I was like, in my mind, I thought, Josh, it's like a 7-Eleven coffee. It's $1. I was like, I'll quickly get a coffee.
Yeah, this was
and
2
I didn't
years
think
ago.
about you.
This was 2 years ago.
Yeah. But it was
2
a
years
very
ago.
sore point.
We had a 5:30, like picking you up from your place.
Yeah.
And so you get into the car. Oh, g'day, mate. And you got your coffee. I was like, mate, where the fuck is my coffee?
Yeah. But you got real shitty. And if I ask myself that question, how does the other person see this?
Yeah.
The other person sees a selfish fucking chipper bloke who's fucking high on caffeine, just raring to go. Mm-hmm. And I could have seen, maybe you felt off. Maybe you were like, all I want right now is a coffee. Mm-hmm. But you hadn't even articulated that yet. But you felt like that. And I didn't consider someone else. I was selfish. So I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
But that's how you get to understanding. I think that question leads to empathy for the other person and what they're going through, or just their situation or their way of viewing you. Because I could easily just see it my way, which is a story. So seeing it your way, seeing it your way versus the person's way is the story that you've surrounded that event with. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, yeah, these are the thing about these questions are that you can go so deep. You can just keep asking. For you, Josh, what's my why? You're getting the real fucking hard ones, dude.
No, I think my why is, it'd be funny if he's done easy, hard, and we've just, what my why is to work out why I'm meant to be here in life. What's my purpose? So it's
that
actually
could be another question.
Yeah. So it's rather than having the why, my job is to understand how I fit into the world and what value I can bring. Does that make sense? Or do you think that's not answering it?
I think there's a version of that. Because I think about the people who answer it and they're like, my why is to serve people.
Yeah.
And
so this is the cliche thing that I just don't want to enter into. I don't actually, I love making things so that other people can relate to it. The reason why a lot of that is self-expression. I want to express myself. I like that it can help other people. It's I think that I would be talking shit if I was to say that there's many other things I could be doing to help people every day. And so I'm wary of just saying my why is to help people.
Mine's not that.
My why is to make sense, is to make sense of life. That's really what I feel like I'm doing every day. And so on the purpose thing, it's not as clear as okay, I've got a clear answer. I'm doing this. It's actually by the end, through the process, it's not like a thing where I arrive where I'm I've worked out my why, I've worked out my purpose. It is the process of doing it every day.
Yeah. And do you think that if you had that one-liner, I guess it's like a business before you start it and thinking about its values, do you think it's worth... Pete Shepherd has a good why.
I've worked on with enough people, worked on enough projects where we're filming people's why, and then seen them being completely out of alignment with their why. And so I'm really jaded. I'm wary to virtue signal a great answer where my why right now feels like figuring it out and understanding where I fit. And so that could be in doing creative, so what I feel like my why is, or what the mission or what I'm trying to do, it's constantly creating creative stuff that people can enjoy. But I think the thing that has changed over the years, I think, has gone from doing it for other people to doing it for myself. Like I feel like with my work, I'm really doing it for me, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so by saying, like, say, watching like the Billie Eilish doco, you get the sense it's like all for fans, and it's like trying to, and I don't feel that energy. I feel like I would burn out if I was to do that.
Yeah. She's young. It may change, and it can change. Your why can change.
Yeah.
So whatever you're saying now can change.
Question for you, question 7 in 20 Questions for Humans by Craig Harper, who's a qualified human.
And you're on the Daily Talk Show.
Yes.
Thank you for joining. It's a real radio reset right there.
Sorry. Did you not like it?
No, I quite liked it.
Okay.
I just had to point it out.
Yeah. What's my plan? Question 7.
What is my plan? What's my plan?
Tommy Jackett's joining us.
Plans are... I think there's multiple plans at play.
If you're enjoying this too, hit the like button.
Yeah.
Or subscribe on your favorite.
Turn that bell on.
Yeah.
What's my plan? Multiple plans at play. We've got business plans, personal plans.
What's your plan? So I think it's interesting you say we a lot. What's your plan? What's my plan?
Yeah.
What's my plan? Answer it for yourself.
What comes to mind is strapping the seatbelt on for life. Life is a lot of things out of our control, and even the things that we feel are in our control, there's still a version of those, like why you like what you fucking like for food, why you haven't stuck at something. There's many of these things that are unanswerable.
And so what's your plan?
So I don't think in my life I've had necessarily a plan that is, strategic in a one-pager or a why that is crisp and fucking succinct like Peter Shepherd. I don't think it's in my nature necessarily to have that plan.
Pete's also figuring it all out.
But when we ask him, he's a coach and he does think about this stuff, and he said meaningful work with people, and so he has got that. And I get it.
But there's also the context of work, why, your company, and then personal stuff. So
I haven't articulated my plan. My plan,
because you don't have one.
No, not in the scheme of, if you said, what's your business plan? And you slide across the table the written out business plan.
I think this is the point of the question, which is, what is your plan? So what we've spoken about it internally, which is like, if you don't have a strategy, that is your strategy. You get pulled into all these different directions.
But my life has played out in a way of sort of navigating and moving towards the things that I obsess about and think about.
What is that?
And the areas, like, I think where I'm at is a manifestation of where I've wanted to go. And so where I've wanted to go in the past was, into my personal training career, or, exploring the health industry, and then what that meant for me personally, and understanding how I was treating my body and that. And then it moved into media, and it was an expression of my creativity. I was yearning for doing more from a creative aspect. I knew I had it in me. I didn't know that I could do it. I hadn't done it. And so then that sort of went down that journey of the presenting thing. Like it all, I'm relating these things to career, but they've also related to internal feelings and things that I wanted to, serve. And so
there were previous plans. Like, I think the weirdness is,
I'm getting there. It's so that has been building the foundation of wanting to build something that is creatively rewarding, has other people a part of it. So like you and I wanting to have a creative team and being able to help other people do a creative endeavor for themselves and scratch that itch. And so all of that has been a part of my plan that I just haven't written down necessarily.
Do you think you would benefit? This is not in the book. Would you benefit from writing down this plan?
That was my question to you about your why. Do you think you'd benefit from actually articulating? And I think there's a yes for both the questions, one to you, one to me. I think there is, but even so, Matthew McConaughey in his book Green Lights wrote a diary and wrote stuff down that he wanted to do, but didn't look at it. But looked at it years later and he's like, "Fuck, I've done all of those." And so I've been through periods of my life where I've written out stuff, every year, written down my goals or whatever. And I felt like when I was less successful, if I was to look at my life back then and look to where I am now, I'd, think, fuck, that's great. You've come so far. When I really had those internal sort of itches or, I felt sort of annoyed at where I was, I would write that down and it was very helpful.
Do you think that your relationship with the idea of a plan changed last year?
From COVID?
Yeah.
I think I've literally this week had moments where I was like, almost like it sunk in what last year was. Like when now our business, is doing much better. Well, our business last year, there was no business for most people. But like looking at the work we've got on, the business, and actually then going, holy shit, like the story dealing with it in the middle of COVID and, not being able to operate a business is like, it's survival mode. But you kind of almost aren't, I felt shit and it was hard, but it's not like the understanding of it now when you're back in work mode and looking to be like, oh my God, like, that was fucking touch and go, seriously. And so understanding that, there was nothing. We couldn't have a plan. Like we did have a plan. We doubled down on content. Yeah. But that's what it naturally evolved. It's like, we can't do anything else. Let's do it. So I think, yes, answer to your question, beneficial in writing down a plan. Then that plan might just look like what you want to be doing. What's the stuff you love? What aren't you doing? Why? A whole range of questions that aren't necessarily like a strategic business plan. And so, I think there's, for me, more value in like, what kind of a partner do I want to be? What kind of a husband do I want to be? I don't have a partnership and a husband. No, it is that husband. But what kind of a dad do I want to be? How do I want to be as a business partner? Like all these things, which I think about. And then I look at where my values sit and feeling, am I in alignment with this stuff? Actually is the plan. But I don't have it written down, Craig. Okay. Sorry, mate.
Okay. You're going to ask me a question?
Yeah. Why do I think the way I do? Number 8. Why do I think the way I do?
Because it was the way I was born, I think. Now, why do I think the way I do? I think like upbringing, what the experiences I had when I was younger, because I started freelancing when I was 14, I created a bunch of habits, some good, some bad, but a bunch of ideas on what it means to create, what it means to collaborate. And so I think definitely the first 20 years of my life has really, shaped what I think now at the age of 30.
Yeah. I mean, we are a product of our environments, which we almost have our beliefs handed to us from an early stage in our life, And so then, of course, you can, onto this next question, which kind of feeds what you just said. Number 9.
How can I change the way I think?
Yeah. So just on being handed beliefs.
That's your question.
And it forming the way you think. The way that I can change the way I think. Action, physiology changes psychology. Another Craig Harper line. Fuck, I'm good. Craig's good, actually. I'm just repeating.
You remember it though?
No, physiology changes psychology. So moving your body can change what's going on upstairs. Habits, can shift. So if I think, which is a belief that I can't stick to anything, and then I never try, my thinking's going to be the same in that. But if I manage to actively stick to something, whatever it be, exercise, business or, personal, whatever it be, that can shift my belief, which is the thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's consumption. There's what am I watching? What am I reading?
I think what you are doing is the biggest indicator of what you're thinking. Don't you think? It's like,
Well, your actions are speaking your values. So so how someone acts is usually good, example of, like you said, what their beliefs are, what their values are.
Well, I think the other thing too is like what is very common in sort of motivation stuff is it's not like you, a lot of people wait to think a certain way to then do the thing. Whereas the weirdness is that a lot of the times you need to do the thing to unlock the thinking. And so if you're waiting for some sort of motivation to go to the gym, it's never going to be there. So you need to do it without it to then gain it, which is really annoying.
Yeah, yeah.
Is it your turn to ask me a question?
Yeah, my turn. Question 10. What is reality, Josh Jansen?
Yeah, reality is what you think. Reality is what you surround yourself with and what you focus on. And so I think that reality is really interesting for us because a lot of things have gotten better for us. But if you focus on the negative stuff, which we have just through ebbs and flows, like I was thinking about times where I felt like this, but we forget, we're really good at forgetting the shit times and remembering the good times.
Yeah.
So you forget that, so when something's happening, this is how I feel anyway. When I feel like I'm being negative, it feels like it's the most negative I've ever been, and it's never been worse. And then I'm like, think about it, and I'm like, okay, this habit here of sleeping in, or just like, these things, it's like, I've done this before. This has all happened before. And so part of it is reality is the view we choose to pick. So if it's like a 360 view and there's all different types of emotions and feelings, we can actually pivot and change that perspective. But sometimes it feels like the weather, everything is pointing you to feel a certain way. And I think that's like what resistance is. Resistance is everything is feeling a certain way. And sometimes you can be, the wind can be blowing in a certain direction and you can push against it. But then there's the other version, which is you enter into it. And I think that I don't think anyone, I think that there's very few people that don't feel the varying levels of emotion. So the idea that you're meant to be like this, idle sort of energy, just, nor here nor there type of thing, like that isn't life. And so thinking about negativity as something that's a reality in time. Yeah, I think when I think about reality, I think about time. I think about this thing that I'm experiencing now is only the perspective based on where I am right now, but it will change. And I think the other thing too is it's like there's lots of things that you can do, like what you talk about, go for a walk, do all this sort of thing, to change your reality. But sometimes, and this is on the sabotage thing, sometimes the crucible moment, being able to break yourself down to then rebuild is exactly what you need, if that makes sense. Like, the worst, some people are just really lucky that things don't fuck up for them. This is part of it. It's like, this is why, like, success, whilst we can have some level of control, it's if you could have had a business in 2019 that did really well compared to 2020 where it's completely different. And so reality is what you're viewing at this specific time, but there's no single reality. It's like mise en scene in film. You've got a frame and what you're seeing is just in that frame. And sometimes it's a comedy and you're having a great time, and other times it's a horror. That was French, I believe. Okay. Charlotte sent us an email. Mise en scene, is it French?
Number 11.
This is for you.
Yeah.
What's it like being around me? So what's it like being around you?
What's it like being around me? If I was to ask myself that question.
Mm-hmm.
I won't answer it straight away. I will get to it, but I'm
reminding you are listening to the Daily Talk Show, and we're reading 20 Questions for Humans by Craig Harper. Please hit that like button, or if you're on the podcast apps, thanks for joining us.
I had a moment where I realized how it was to be around me at a certain point in my life, and it was
recently.
Yeah, very recently. I can even remember where I was walking. I was walking down Victoria Street, and I was thinking about me when I was a young PT, all about that protein, all about that chicken breast and
like
rice.
Protein Paul down the road.
Yeah. I had to get my protein in. Had to get it in, and I used to go down to obsessed. It's how I put on 20 kilos, bro.
I'll tell you how I did 20 kilos. Messina. there's more than one way to skin a cat.
Yeah. But I used to go to Lawn in the summertime. Friend had a holiday house down there, and there was a place called Andrew's Chicken Joint, and it was like a charcoal chicken. Fucking brilliant. If you're ever in Lawn, Victoria, Great Road. Oh, mate. It all. I didn't do that stuff back then. It was all about that chicken and salad.
Tabbouleh?
Yeah. Used to hit the tabbouleh. I was on that tabbouleh train.
Yeah.
And I just had this moment where I realized that
on Victoria Street?
Yeah.
So you remember, Victoria Street recently, you were thinking about something that happened.
Yeah. It
10
anchors.
years ago.
I have moments where I can listen to a podcast and I literally will listen back to it and I'll remember where I first heard it.
Yeah,
like I was at Punt Road. It really embeds. There's something about the audio journey that cements with a memory of the moment, like where you're.
Well, that's
bringing
why,
everything in.
like the memory games, you can like set up a house, like a path, and you go through the path and you place things on the path.
That's how you remember.
It's like me remembering me asking you about starting a business together near Todd Road on the exit in Port Melbourne.
I love it. So that's the Victoria Street thing.
That reminds you of Andrew's Chicken Shop?
Because I had a breakthrough moment of observing how I was to be around in that moment, which is funny because it's years later, but I was like, my friends that I was with up there, these girls would like love, I think just like getting me excited about Andrew's Chicken Joint. And I was like, do you want to go get some chicken? But I was just like, fuck, it must have been a bit comedic to them. In a fun way because they love me, but they would get me fired up, and it was, do you want to go? And
you're real serious.
They would, yeah. But I would even get like years later, I'd like get texts of the Andrew's Chicken Joint, like a photo, and be like the best.
Yeah.
But it became a thing, and at that moment, I was realizing
why in Victoria Street did it come to you,
mate? Stop getting bogged down about Victoria Street.
No,
it was just a place that I just literally had a moment where I remembered, and so it was a moment where I years later realized what I was like to be around, and I could think. I was really putting myself in their position, thinking about them.
But what made you think about that?
Don't know, dude.
Do you think it's like because you do it to me? I think sometimes where it's like, you purposefully enter into my world. So you like, it's a thing I think you've especially started it this year where it's like, oh, you know what? Like I'm thinking about what Josh wants or needs or makes things easier. Like we're on a shoot and sometimes I hate like fucking just dealing with all I love the cinematography part, filming, but the pack down pisses me off sometimes. And we're on the shoot and TJ's like, mate, just fucking chill, take a seat. We actually need everyone's hands to do this. Like I actually need to help.
That's being selfless.
If I was to sit down, I'd feel like a real piece of work.
Nah.
But you were doing it from a nice place. Like, no, just sit down.
Yeah.
But that is you active. That's the chicken shop. That's you thinking about like what would, like Josh doesn't want to be doing this.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, 100%. And so there's then the in the moment thinking, which is what Craig really wants us to think about, I think. What's it like being around me in this moment, in this business? And I think it's highlighted when we have different. So from a business context, you and I are very different. And so if I think about what it's like for the people in this business, what it's like for them being around me, and then it's confronting, because you then realize, what you're analyzing your behavior, you're thinking about, how you spoke to somebody, you're thinking about your mood. If anything, I probably am more. We talk a lot about, we get meta about a lot of things. And so that is about our emotions, which is thinking about how we are to be around. Like the conversation after yesterday's podcast probably was a good shift when Jess and George said, fuck you guys, and depressed. That's a realization in that moment where it snapped me out of the feeling.
Back to the toxic
masculinity.
Yeah.
No, but it snapped me out of it. It's like, oh, you see how we're coming across to people.
Is it our job to make people feel comfortable around us? This is not a Craig Harper question.
Yeah.
Is it our job? So in that moment where you change to make them feel better, is that your job?
No, I don't think I'm changing to make them feel better. It's a perspective shifter. Like it's another one. Craig, your questions, they're great to ask because they get you thinking. That's what he said.
Is Harris, who's a YouTuber, she has a great line of clothes, and one of them is a jumper or sweater, as they would say, and it's not here to make you feel comfortable. Which is such a funny, like wearing it at a family event. Just fuck off. just chill out. You don't have to argue about it.
Yeah.
Wearing a sweater that says "I'm not here to make you feel comfortable" is really like, I'm ready to fight politics.
100%. And because I think there's, I get the funniness of it, but there's also like,
I think that especially for women where you feel like you have to be made, this is what a bunch of women have said, like, you have to feel small in the room or, change, sort of, be a chameleon in every environment, fit into a man's world. I guess with that thinking, I'm not here to make you feel comfortable is pushback to that. It's a sort of
which is fair. So there's also some real fuckwits out there that have no gauge on how they're perceived or how their actions affect the people around them. Like probably the fuckhead CEO businessman who's making his employees, especially women, feel like small individuals. And so like at that point, that question is would be poignant for him to ask. And so it's we think a lot about who we are, and who I am is my actions. Who I am is how I treat people. Who I am is what I believe and think. It's made up of all of those things. And so if you can just be checking on them, I'm a fuckwit to be around. That's what I'm saying.
No. And I am Josh Jansen. I'm joined with my co-host, Tommy Jack. It is The Daily Talk Show. I actually could get into AM.
Yeah,
radio.
I know you could, mate. I love
what
that. Are we up to?
The top of 21 today, currently 19 in Abbotsford.
Question 12. Am I efficient or just busy?
I don't think I've got an issue with busy. I've pushed back on busy my whole life. So the idea of like getting into the hamster wheel sort of thing doesn't really, it's not a problem I have. Efficiency, not great. I think I go a long way for certain things. And there's other things that I'm highly efficient on. A lot of procrastination, but at the same time, very good at distilling things into a very simple process around this. That's
Yeah.
why on videos, it's like I'm very good with understanding key messages, distilling it down, not fucking around, shooting at heaps of other stuff, getting to the point.
Yeah.
But I think, I think that question is obviously going to serve a lot of the people who it's like you're constantly doing stuff, writing, thousands of emails a day. I'm not that guy.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
Yeah, I like that.
What is success for me?
Oh, thanks for asking. Success for me is I was going to say successfully managing, but I guess I can. Managing my state, managing my mind. Like I feel that navigating, so it's not as much like about material or monetary, like like I think they're the things you go to, a lot of people go to quite quickly is when they think of success. But if I'm having great relationships, I'm doing the things that I say I'm going to do, which is probably one of my values of I like, if I'm going to say I'm going to do something, I will do it. And so if I'm success, it sounds cliche, but like being in alignment with your own values is a version of success because it makes you feel sort of harmonious. There's little things that are success. Doing meditation, there's so many little things, and so I probably thought about money recently, about success and money, and like as I get older and where I want to be, and having having a house, and so you see how it shifts.
So someone making, and this is what I've been thinking about with the money thing, is someone who gets lucky through a few transactions through Bitcoin or something like that. It's not really, you can have a big bank account, but that doesn't make you successful. Doesn't mean that you've lived a rich life. And so it's very problematic assigning success with money because success also isn't some sort of destination where you arrive. Obviously, it's something that you have glimmers of feeling success, like maybe like wins, like you have wins. But if you see success as having wins, it's like every day is a new game, and some you win, some you lose, and then your life is a sum of all those games rather than winning one big game.
Yeah. It's it makes it hard to answer the success thing when you start really sort of so if you understand that like every day is going to be a mix of emotions. So if happiness was your goal at that point, you'd be upset because most days there will be a version of feeling not in the state of happiness.
You're not having a bad day, you're having a bad moment.
Yeah.
Well, tell that to me because I'm having a shit month. It's early in the month.
But I think they're probably important if you're looking at, some things. So for businesses, making money is how you tick, keep ticking. And so there is, it's varying for me. Varying for me. For you, Josh, question 14. Am I ready to do the work? That sounds like
it's a big silence.
Yeah.
I think that's like the big thing that I'm trying to overcome is it's like, am I ready to do the work? It feels like it's interesting because say this like breaking down and rebuilding, it feels like I've done the work a bunch of times and I'm not necessarily where I want to be. And so work becomes harder, like doing the work or doing the thing that you think that you need to do. I've had moments where I've been like, it's fucked up, but I don't think that work hasn't always equated to the success or happiness. It's just, that's the whole busy thing. So I'm willing to do and I am. What's the question?
Are you ready to do
I'm
the
ready
work?
to do the personal work that I need to do. That I think is different to the work that others think that I might need to do, or the work I think that at this time right now is this internal thinking around what is the work that I need to do on myself, on all of that type of thing. Does that make sense?
No, it's good. I think the question can be asked to anything you're doing, whether it's changing your body, business, relationships. Because if you think about it, it's like if you've got a bad relationship with an individual that you want to have a better one with, are you ready to ask, or are you ready to be open with them and tell them something that you hate or something that you've done?
I think there's also
which is fucking hard.
Yeah.
And so then it's like, not everyone is up for doing the work.
Yeah, but I also think there's a lot of people who say they're willing to do the work, but they haven't, and they don't. And so where's the disconnect? There's got to be a disconnect in regards to, I think that it's maybe the plan, the values, all of that sort of stuff really needs to be dialed in to then, because I feel like you never work out, or I don't work out the cadence or the work that needs to be. I'm still figuring out what I'm here to do, what work I need to do. And because I guess I'm constantly asking, is this the right work that I'm doing? Is this the best use of what I can do? Am I optimizing my, learning? I don't know. I think learning's a big one from a values perspective. I always am wanting to learn.
And maybe when you're thinking about, so for me, thinking about doing something that I've already done again, so you have context of what doing the work looks like, or like you're saying, having that plan, something written out where it's future experiences that you're writing down. So it's like what I will need to do. It's hard because this is the weird bit. Am I willing to do another 1,000 episodes of a podcast that with somebody else? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
I'm not up for doing that work. But was I up for doing the original stuff? I never necessarily said to myself, looked in the mirror and said, am I up for fucking doing, X amount of podcasts, whatever it be. No, I didn't. But I was up for navigating and doing something with my life.
I think that there's been moments in my life where I've really got a hold of the steering wheel and it feels like I am, definitely have that all dialed in. It definitely feels right now that life is happening to me, if that makes sense. And so it's hard to identify what the work is. Because I think that it's much where we're sitting right now.
Abbotsford, Victoria. Welcome you listening to the Daily Talk Show.
It's 19 degrees. Top of 21 today. No, but I think it's
where we're sitting.
It's a different feeling. So you think about reality or whatever. And so you've got a mate who's like really ambitious and doing stuff, but you're like, oh my God, they're a bit fucking off their chops in regards to what they're thinking they can do. But it drives them like that, like future driving. Where I struggle with, if I think about, like we're good with, all our superannuation, like putting it in personally and all that sort of thing. But if I think too much about superannuation, I get like so dark on it because I'm like, okay, so this is 401k in the US or whatever. It's like, I'm going to work all of these years to then retire or to then have this money. Like when I think about that, I get like a bit depressed. And so doing the work is interesting when it feels like life is, when you're in a position, it's almost like this isn't the best case scenario for us right now. Don't you agree? Like if we could have had it, we would be doing the podcast and making a bunch of money through that and doing original stuff. So we're doing plan B. And I think that that's like a hard reality, but also it's hard because
but then what if there was only ever the plan? So it's like plan A, plan B is distinguishing two conceptualized thinking, which was plan A, conceptualized thinking, which is plan B. But then there's life, and it is what it is. It is where you are. And so the concept of A and B, if you removed and be like, that was only ever thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And so we've only ever got places, so you don't control where you're born. I didn't pick my mum and dad. I didn't pick to grow up in Brighton. And so there's so many things that were never a part of anyone's plan other than just evolution and human.
I picked to be in Endeavour Hills.
Yeah, I know you did, but that was a weird one. You thought it sounded great. You should have gone to rack.
No, Endeavour Hills great.
No, of course it is. But my point being is what you're saying between this is plan B, this is life. Plan A, plan B. So the way you're looking at it is like if you don't succeed plan A, it falls into plan B. But plan B is life. Life is however it's playing out and wherever you are right now. And so we don't want, that's the hard bit. What you're saying is there is an alternative reality to the one we have that we would probably choose if we could, click our fingers, but that's not even real.
But isn't there going upstream and going downstream? So what I felt like we were doing for 2 years or 3 years or whatever was going upstream. And I got so much energy through that, and I feel like I got stronger because it's like you understand that it's way, way, way harder, but it is, that the development that you can build from that, but also at the top of the stream, or as you go, there's so many more sort of rewards. Now it feels like it's recognizing that we need to switch to downstream. And the idea is that it's because we sort of reached a level where we're like, oh, you know what, like maybe we die if we keep going upstream. And so it's like, okay, we need to go downstream for a bit. But the downstream thing doesn't have the resistance that upstream. So the resistance was the thing that I loved, which was like, oh yeah, you don't think we can do it? Yeah, we're going to fucking do it. And it's like putting in the time, and it's like doing the work, going upstream. I fucking loved doing the work, going upstream, because people because it felt like it wasn't the status quo. It was doing something different. It feels like what we're doing now, there are thousands of versions, and of production companies doing client work. I don't know, like it sounds
think about there can be, if you're thinking of a river and you were to whack people in canoes or kayaks, very different experience being in a canoe versus a kayak. One's very easy to flip, but the pros are in the kayaks going very hard, and they get great at navigating down the river with the stream.
Yeah.
And so so what I'm saying is the river's going one way. There's lots of people in the river is what you're referring to, but you can be really good at navigating the river downstream. You can go faster. You can pull up. You can navigate through, specific obstacles. And so there is, I think it's fine to be going down the river versus up the river. Because it's really hard for a bunch of time. Maybe you've built strength going up the river to then turn around and fucking coast and then train in a different way.
And so I think that part of it, though, is the downstream. You're living in a temporary state. I don't have any intention of doing what we're doing now for the rest of my life. I don't. I could do what we're doing now, original stuff. That is the vision of what I want to do for the rest of my life. And so it feels disingenuous in some regards, or you're just trying to get enough energy again. So the idea is, I guess, if the fuel is, money and, a successful business, and also that's the way of, so when you go upstream, you're focusing so much on your own well-being and surviving that you can't get other people to come up with you on the upstream, right? The only way to get people is by going on the downstream, because it's an easier, so everyone recognizes, understands, it's, there's revenue in the downstream. So it's like, it's easy to bring people in and all that sort of thing. But the idea is that you're sort of in the downstream working out a plan to go back up. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but you can spend time in both places.
And so but that's the focus. Then that comes down to focus. So you can't actually go upstream and downstream simultaneously. You have to pick one. And that's what we were experiencing, is it's like we were trying to get the fruits of the downstream whilst putting all of our focus in the upstream.
Yeah, but like the resistance from going upstream builds the strength to go then downstream. So then I think it's like a training. It's a training ground. You can't, like, you'd fall apart just feeling like, so much resistance constantly, and the energy that can bring. So number 15. We'll keep it quick. Let's go hard through these last 5.
This is for you. What is my body telling me?
I need to take a piss.
Yeah,
I've drank way too much water.
32 ounces.
And but what is my body telling me if I've got a sore shoulder? It's like I'm tied up in the shoulder joint. It's from an old injury. What's my body telling me? I've got a headache. Could be that I'm dehydrated.
Definitely not if you.
Great question to ask. Great question to ask. Number 16. Why do I say yes when I should say no?
Because you don't. Because I don't want to disappoint people.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's like the main thing, and it's also like, am I just looking at the wrong reality? If I look at the business stuff, if you think about where I am now, you'd say, oh, well, Josh should just say no, just give it up. But I'm not doing that. And so what is it? There's obviously enough that I see, that enough benefit in trying this other thing, because I haven't, and this is, I guess, the dip and all that sort of thing. It's like, okay, it's rather than saying no, no is always an option, but I think like you owe it to everything and everyone to say yes sometimes.
Yep. Number 17.
Okay. What do I need to stop doing?
Oof.
You glad you got that one? Because
yeah, it's a great question. I don't know if I have an answer right now. What do I need to stop doing? I need to stop. What do I need to stop doing? Stop. Stop heated arguments with Amy around Bodhi. They don't happen much. They don't happen a lot, but you see the effect. And
what's the effect?
Oh, Bodhi can, like, if Amy and I were having an argument in the car or something, you can see like you can see it physically shift Bodhi's state.
What does he do?
Stop it.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, he might just say something like that, or you see how it really affects people. And so that's just something. We don't have a lot of them, but I really have thought that. What I need to stop doing. Question 18. What happens when I lose motivation?
I think I go introspective. I go internal. I think I do a lot of thinking.
Do you think it brings motivation back? Do you think it gives you new energy?
I think losing motivation, losing motivation is a sign.
What sign?
It can be a sign that you actually are going through nothing. Motivation doesn't last for, like, motivation is fleeting. Motivation is not the reason why Harps goes to the gym. By that point, it's not motivation. It's something else. And so what happens when I lose motivation? Sometimes I just show up like nothing changes. But other times, other areas of my life where I haven't built the habit, they just stop. I think that's the, but if definitely I go into the why, what do I want to do? I think the other thing too is I switch my focus. If I'm not motivated on something, I'll switch my focus to something else.
Yeah. Number 19 for me.
What will my life look like in 1 year?
I'll be a father of 2 children. Beautiful little girl and Bodhi, beautiful little man. And I will probably be living in I'll be living in the same house. Our business will be thriving. Hopefully we have more people. We're feeling like we are giving it a crack and we're showing up. And so for us, the next year, I think it is very much of what we're doing and just getting quite good at what we're doing, navigating all the first times, like what we have the start of this year. There's a lot of firsts. You can have a business, but there comes a point where you have to make someone redundant. That's a first, and that's a fucked feeling. And we're gonna be still doing the podcast. But in terms of what I hope, there's some comfort in the consistency of doing a similar thing and building that and growing that, which it seems it's uncomfortable, but the comfort sort of comes on the other side, or fulfillment, or, just like, just practicing. I mean, a lot can happen in a year, and it can feel like a lot doesn't happen in a year. But then it's like the perspective. I had a moment where I was thinking about driving up to Sydney years ago when I had my own business and I was editing in the front seat while Amy was driving. And I was like, fuck, that's a lot different now. A lot different now. But the perspective back then, like I wouldn't want to do that again necessarily. But we've come so far from then. And so in a year's time, as much as you can feel in the moment that you haven't come far. If you can just think back, a lot can change. Even if you don't think much has changed in your life, there probably is something that's changed. Just got to find it, and it can help you get a bit of perspective.
Question 20.
What's the meaning of life? Sucked in, son.
I don't know. I think that the meaning of life is to figure it out.
That's a good one. The meaning of life is to give it a crack.
What does Harp say?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. See, all right, it's money. Lamborghinis.
No.
Do you
want me to read
it? He said,
again, I'm either brave or stupid for even thinking about tackling this question, but nonetheless, there it is in the title, and here I am. And even as I write this sentence, not knowing exactly what's about to come out of my head, I should really plan more. I'm leaning towards stupid.
Oh, well, having said that, it's a question that fascinates me, always has. It's something I've been asked about many times over the years. It's definitely a question that has been examined, explored, and debated. I'm just jumping here. No single answer. And for me, there's a hint as to why we have no consensus. And it lies in the singular noun in the middle of the question. What is the meaning of life? The ideology suggests that there is only one meaning of life for all of us. We somehow need to figure it out, understand it, agree with it, and then comply. Well, I call that rubbish.
Craig doesn't know either.
No. But no, what's the meaning of your life is probably the question. The meaning of life. Personal. I remember having this conversation with this bloke named Basil. The first Basil I'd ever met. No, another Basil now. But Basil was on my year 9 camp. He was like a teacher. It was where we went away for a whole term, 8 weeks, lived in our own houses. But he was this hippie-ish guy, artist. And I remember him sort of talking to us about the meaning of life. And I felt like this guy knew it. What I realize now is he was full of shit.
Basil was high.
I think he was. Basil was a lovely dude. And he was talking to us about his meaning of life. Yeah. That's 100%, because it's very different. It has to be for you. What's the meaning of your life? I love that.
Great. Hi at thedailytalkshow.com. If you want to send us an email, hit the like button if you are watching on YouTube. You've been listening to The Daily Talk Show. Have a good one, guys.
See you guys.